In this lecture, we're going to create a movie information page. We already have the component created. Right now, it's looking a bit empty, so let's go ahead and code it out. Our movie information component is going to be huge. It's going to be the biggest component in this entire application because we have a lot of data to show. So we'll have to import a lot of things. So let's start with the imports. First, let's import the Material UI components. We can do a modal. Then we need a typography as well as the button. We're going to also use a button group. We're going to need a grid, a box, then a circular progress, also the use media query hook, and then finally, we're going to use the rating component. All of this is coming from add MUI material. I know, quite a long line. Now we're going to import all of the icons that we can use. So that's going to be import movie as movie icon. Then we're going to import theaters. Then we can import language. We can import the +1 icon as well as the favorite icon. Then we can have the favorite border outlined. And finally, we have the remove and the arrow back icons. All of this is coming from add MUI icons material. Now you might be wondering, where did I find all of these icons? Let me show you. I'm currently on Material UI's page and I'm going to search for icons. Right here, you can see material icons and click here to search the full list of these icons. And there we go. You can find different versions, filled, outlined, and so on. For example, we're using the arrow back, and this is how it looks like. Great. And then in here, you can read how to import it. But we've already done that. Now that we have the icons, we can import a few things from React Router, and these things are going to be the link and use params. That's going to be from React-Router-DOM. Finally, a few things from React Redux. That's going to be use dispatch as well as the use selector from React-Redux. And then one last thing is import Axios from Axios. Quite a lot of imports. Now, we'll be writing a lot of JSX here, so it might be a good idea to put the browser and our Visual Studio Code side by side. I've just done that, and now we can continue with the coding. Of course, to get the movie information for a specific movie, we first need to know which movie are we talking about. So how can we get this ID that we can see right here in our URL? That is what use params is for. Right here, we can say const, destructure the ID, and simply call the use params hook. This is going to give us access to this ID, and then we can simply display it right here next to our movie information. There we go, you can see the movie number. But now if you think about it, we haven't yet coded out the logic to get the information only about a specific movie. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use DMDB, of course, more specifically, our services object. Right here, we have our create API with different endpoints. These are the endpoints for the genres, and these are the endpoints to get multiple movies. But how are we going to get one single movie? We can do that by providing a new endpoint below this one, and that's going to be simply get movie. We can do it like this. Get movie is equal to builder.query. Then we have an object, and we can set the query to be equal to a function, as we always do. And then in this function, we're going to get the ID as the parameter. Then we can simply instantly return a template string that's going to go to /movie/ and then ID. Finally, we have to add a few more things to it. One property is called append _to _response. And then we can put that equal to videos. And also comma, credits. This is going to give us access to credits and videos from that specific movie. Of course, I found this in TMDB documentation, so if you want to take a look, just go to the /movie inside of the docs. And after that, we just have to say and attach the API underscore key equal to TMDB API key. With that, we're done with this query. Now we can notice what I meant when I said it's extremely simple to use Redux Toolkit query once you get used to it and once you have the entire structure set up. Now we know the procedure. We simply need to export use get movie query, go back to our movie information, and right here we need to import it. So we can say import, that's going to be use get movie query, and that's going to be coming from .. and then services TMDB. Now we can call that just below this ID. So we can say const, and from there, we're going to get the data about one specific movie. So we can say data, and as you know, we're also getting two different things, which is the is fetching and error. That is going to be equal to use get movie, not movies. I have a typo here, use get movie query. And then in there, we simply have to pass the ID as a parameter. That's going to give us access to the information about one specific movie. Now, before we start coding out the actual movie information, let's handle the edge cases. What we can do is say if is fetching. In that case, we simply want to return a box. That box is going to have a display equal to flex. It's also going to have a justify content equal to center. And finally, it's going to have align items also equal to center. Inside of that, we're going to have a circular progress, and that circular progress is going to be of size equal to something like 8 rem to make it just a bit bigger. Great. This is going to be for our is fetching. And finally, we have to implement a similar thing for the error. So I'm going to copy it, paste it below, and say if error. In that case, we show the box, and we're not going to show a circular progress. Rather, we're going to show a link that's going to point like this. It's going to say to just /, and then we can say something like something has gone wrong, go back. Great. Now we have our error handling and our loading handler. Now we can start creating the movie information page. If we reload the page, we should be able to see our loading. There it was for just a split second, which means it works. And then we get back to this movie information. So how is our movie information going to look like? Well, first, we're going to have a grid. So we can create a grid component right here. That grid is going to be of a type container, and it's going to have a class name equal to classes.container space around. Of course, we haven't yet created the classes, so let's simply say test here while we are implementing the classes. Of course, we can create them right here by creating a new file called styles.js. Inside of there, we can simply copy our styles from the app.js. Let's see where they are. They are inside of the components, and then styles right here. We can copy them, paste them here, and then in here, the first style is going to be container space around. A really unique name. And that's going to be a container that's going to have a display equal to flex. It's going to have a justify content of, you can guess it, space around. We're also going to have margin set to 10 pixels on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. And we're also going to give it important tag. And finally, on mobile devices, meaning theme.breakpoints.down from small, there we're going to give it flex direction to be equal to column, because we want to show the information from top to bottom, and also flex wrap is going to be set to wrap. This is going to be it for our first class, and of course we're getting the theme straight from here. Now we can go back to our movie information and we can import our styles. So we can say import use styles from /styles. And as you already know, from here we're getting const classes is equal to use styles. Great. Let's save it and see if we have something on the right side. I'm going to reload the page. And we get cannot access ID before initialization. That's because I switched these two lines and we need to have the use params at the top so that we can get the ID. As you can see, we have our grid now because our test is in the middle. So it's not going to be just a test, rather it's going to be one more grid inside of it. So right here, we can say grid. That grid is going to be of a type equal to item. And on small devices, it's going to take the full screen. And on large devices, it's going to take 4 out of 12 spaces. Inside of that grid, we just want to have our image. So in here, I can say image as a self-closing tag. We're going to give it a class name equal to classes.poster. And finally, we're going to give it a source. So the source to get the TMDB image is going to be a template string, https://image.tmdb.org/t/p/w500 and then / to get the image information we have to say data $poster_path. If we now save that, we should be able to see the image. There we go, I've opened Venom. And as you can see, here is the Venom image. I'm also going to give it the alt tag, and that's simply going to be set to data $title. Great. And again, if you're not sure how to get the URL of the image, just Google for it. That's my best advice that I can give you. Let's search for TMDB movie image. Is that going to give us any results? Our doc's loaded, and you can read this, but you can also take a look at this. For instance, we're getting an image by going to this URL, and that's the exact same thing that we're getting. Great. So you can simply copy this, and then we have to replace the poster path. Great. So now let's style this image. That is the class name poster. Our poster is going to have a lot of styles because we want it to fit on all different screen sizes. So we can say poster, and in here we're going to say border radius is going to be set to 20 pixels. Then we're going to have our box shadow to give it some shadow, and that's going to be 0.5 EM, 1 EM, 1 EM, and then we can simply say black. If we save that, you're going to notice that the border radius is applied, and also we have our shadow. Now this black is a bit too black, so I'm going to say RGB, and let's do something like 64, 64, and then 70. I found that RGB value to work the best. As you can see, it's not as dark right now. Then below that, we also want to give it the width. So I'm going to say width is equal to 80%. It's going to make it just a bit smaller. Well, not right now because we are on a smaller screen, but usually it will. Now we want to add a theme only for small devices. So let's copy this. And on small devices, we want to set the margin to be equal to 0 on top and bottom and auto on left and right. We want to set the width to be 100%. We also want to set the height to be equal to 350 pixels. And finally, the margin bottom to be equal to 30 pixels. Looks like we have a typo. So let's see, where is it? We are closing this here. Looks like we're missing one closing curly brace. So right now we cannot see how does it look like on mobile, but if I just collapse this a bit more, you can see it's starting to look good on mobile devices. It's in the middle and it's small. Great. So let's make it just a bit bigger. And now we're going to copy this one more time, and we want to also change it for medium devices. So we can say down medium. The margin is going to be the same as in small devices. The width is going to be 50%. We can leave the height to be the same, but we don't need the margin bottom. Great. Let's save it. I think that if we increase it a bit, we should see it on mobile devices. There we go. I think this is going to be it. But again, we're going to add a lot more styling, so we'll see how it looks like on all different screen sizes. Now we can continue adding more movie information. Below our first inner grid, we're going to have one more grid. This grid is going to be of a type item, and it's going to be of a type container as well. We can have a grid that can be an item of another container, but it can be a container for the items that are inside of it. I know that part is a bit confusing, but basically, whenever you have a parent div, it's a container, and when you have a child grid, it's an item. But in this case, this grid is the item of this container, but it's also going to be a parent of another inner div. I hope that part makes just a bit sense. Great, so that grid is going to be item, container, and direction is going to be set to column. Also, it's going to be LG is equal to 7. So it's going to take 7 out of 12 spaces on large devices. Inside of this grid, we're going to have a typography. This typography is going to be of a variant is equal to H3. Also, it's going to have align is equal to center. Not align items, just align. I'm going to zoom out a bit so you can see everything. And next to that, we're going to say gutter bottom. Now inside of there, we can render data dot title. Let's save it. And as you can see, Venom, let there be carnage. So this definitely works. But also next to that title, I'm going to put parentheses and say data dot release underscore date dot split. And then we want to split it by using dash. Great. And then we want to take the first element. So this is going to split the release date and just give us the year. Of course, this has to be wrapped in curly braces. Let's save it. And there we go, 2021. Again, if you wanted to see the real release date, then we can just use release date. And that's going to be the full date, but most people are not worried about that. They just want to know the year. So we can put these parentheses outside like this, because we do want to include them in our JSX. So it's going to look like this, the title and then the year in the parentheses. Now below this typography, we're going to have one more typography. This one is going to be variant H5. It's going to be align center and gutter bottom, the same as the previous one. But here, we're not going to render data dot title. It's going to be data dot tagline. If I save that, I'm going to reload the page. So it looks like there isn't a tagline here for Venom because it's a new movie. But if we go to our movies and to Free Guy, there we go. Life's too short to be a background character. That now works. And this also shows us why I'm using question marks. Usually, we're not sure if we're going to have all of the movie details for every single movie. For example, for Venom, we don't have the tagline. So it's always a good idea to put a question mark if you're not sure if you're going to get a property, because otherwise it might cause an error. In this case, it's not going to cause it because it's just one level deep, but if it were a few levels deep like this, then without question marks, it would definitely cause the error. In this case, it won't. So that's why we're going to use question marks throughout this file. Great. Now let's expand this a bit to see how it looks on bigger devices. And there we go. This is extremely good. We have our poster on the left side and we have our title on the right side. If we go to movies and Free Guy, we also have a tagline right here. Now let's collapse this and then we'll be able to start adding more features to it. This view is going to be fine because then we can still see what's happening. So let's go ahead and continue with our JSX. Still inside of this grid, but below this typography, we're going to have one more grid. This grid is going to be of a type is equal to item, and it's going to have the same class name as the above one, which is going to be classes.container space around. Inside of there, we're going to have a box. And this box if I could fix this, this box is going to have a display equal to flex and a line equal to center. Inside of there, we're going to have the movie rating. So right here, we can use the rating component. We can make it read only by saying read only, and we can set the value to be equal to data.vote_average and then divided by 2. Let's save it. And immediately we have our rating on the right side. Now, you might be wondering, how did I know that there is a release_date property, a vote_average property, a poster path, or things like that? Well, let's simply console log the information we're getting. I'm going to console log our data, and that's going to give us access to all the information that we can use. Right here, we get an object, and take a look. We have access to every single one of these properties: title, tagline, status, video, vote average, and so on. So if you want to see, and if you want to use something extra that I don't currently use, definitely make sure to check here and then use it. For example, I won't be using the budget part, so you can parse the string into a meaningful number and then display that as well. I also don't use belongs to collection, so you can implement that as well. So now let's close this and continue with the development. Below our rating, we're going to have one more typography, and that typography is going to be of a variant equal subtitle 1. So we can say variant subtitle 1. It's going to have a gutter bottom, and we're also going to give it some inline styles. Style is equal to margin left of 10 pixels. Finally, we're going to show our data?vote_average in case somebody wants to see the average simply by looking at it as a number. 7.9, and that's going to be out of 10. So now we have the rating representation and as well the rating as a number. Finally, below this entire box, we're also going to have one more typography. And this typography is going to be of a variant is equal to H6. It's going to have the align equal to center, and it's going to have the gutter bottom. Inside of here, we can display data?runtime, and that's going to be in minutes. And then after that, we can also show some more information like which languages are spoken. So right here, we can say data?spoken_languages .length. If the length of spoken languages is larger than 0, in that case, we can show something like this, question mark, and that's going to be data?spoken_languages, and then 0.name. Else, we don't want to show anything, so it's going to be just an empty string. But we also don't want to show this sign right here, so we can copy that and put it right here in a template string. So we want to show / and then this in a template string. Great. Now let's save that if everything is done correctly. And it is right now. So now we can see 115 minutes English. Great. So this now also works. We have our rating on the left side, and then the duration and the language on the right side. That's going to be it for our second grid. And now to open up a third one right here, that's going to be our grid for our genres. So in here, we can set grid, type item, class, name is going to be set to classes.genres container. Inside of there, we want to loop over the genres. So we can open a dynamic block and say data?genres?map. Inside of here, we get one individual genre and the index we're looping over. Of course, this has to be in a callback function, like this, and then we have an instant return, like this. Inside of there, we want to return a link for each individual genre. So we can say link. That link is going to have a class name equal to classes.links, and it's going to point to /. Also, it's going to have an onClick property, so onClick, but right now we're going to leave that as an empty callback function because we're going to implement it later on. Finally, every item that we're looping over in a map also has to have a key, so we're going to say key is equal to index. Or to be even more precise, we can say key is equal to genre.name. Great. Now, inside of this link, we want to show the image. Remember that image we've already used for our genres right here? Well, we can go to our sidebar and we can basically copy that image. That is going to be right here, list item icon. We can just copy the image part. So let's copy the image, paste it right here, and we can go back to the sidebar one more time to import all of the genre icons from our assets. So right here, let's go back, and at the top, we're going to import our genre icons. Now we're going to have an error because name doesn't exist right now, because that's going to be genre.name. Great. And there we go. You can see we immediately get our 4 different genres. This is going to be comedy, action, adventure, and I'm not sure what this is, most likely fantasy. Or we can read that right here. That is science fiction. Great. So alongside that image, we also want to show a typography. And that typography is going to have a color equal to text primary. And it's also going to be a variant equal to subtitle 1. And inside of there, we can simply say genre ? Name. Great. And there we go. We can see 4 different icons with 4 different categories. Also, we just want to switch one thing about this image. The class name is going to be genre image and not genre images. Everything else is going to remain the same. So now let's apply the styles for these. The styles are going to be genres container and then also genre image. Let's go to our styles right here. To implement our genres container, we can say genres container, and then that's going to be margin, 10 pixels on top and bottom, and 0 on left and right. We also have to provide important in this case, because usually our styles are not going to get applied because some material UI properties are going to take higher priority. So that's why we're adding important. Then we're going to set the display to be equal to flex. Also, justify content is going to be set to space around. And then finally, flex wrap is going to be set to wrap. If we save it, you can see that they nicely go in one line. We also need to change our genre image. So let's go ahead and type it out. Genre image. It's going to contain a filter property, and we can say if theme.palette.mode is triple equal to dark. In that case, and we simply want to invert the color. So right now on white, they are black, which makes sense. But if we are on dark mode, we want to invert the color to white. Right now, we cannot test that out, but we are going to test it out soon. And then we also want to give it a margin right. So margin right equal to 10 pixels. I forgot a comma here, so let's add it, save it, and there we go. Looks like we're missing one thing, and that thing is going to be class name equal to links. So we have to go back and implement the links. Our links is going to be an object where display is going to be set to flex. Also, justify content is going to be set to center. Then the align items is going to be set to center. We can copy this thing right there. On mobile devices, we want to simply give it some padding. So we can say padding is equal to 0.5 rem on top and bottom and 1 rem on left and right. And as we saved it, immediately everything is spaced out correctly now. If we try to collapsing this to mobile size, take a look, everything besides the poster looks great. And I'm sure the poster is going to look also a lot better on mobile devices. So if I do this, right now it's broken, but take a look, everything else looks great. Let's just quickly fix the poster so that we don't have any errors left behind. Let's inspect it. And it looks like this width 50% is making this wrong. So the width from the medium is being applied and we want to keep the width to 100%. This is a really interesting issue. And I think if we simply switch these two, it should actually work. Let me see. There we go. So basically, we need to have our larger devices at the start, and then our medium ones, and then the smaller ones at the bottom. Great. Now it's taking 100%, and would you look at that? It just looks so great on mobile devices. It almost feels like a native mobile application, and these genres are looking great. Now, let's close the console. On desktop, it also looks great. And now let's make these genres work. So when we click on that genre, we basically want to do the same thing as we click right here on the sidebar. We want to re-navigate to just slash and then show the comedy movies. So we already have all of the logic for that. We basically need to copy and paste it. So let's see what we're doing on the sidebar. On the sidebar, we are getting this dispatch function, and then basically we're calling dispatch, select genre or category, and then we're passing in the category value. So let's go ahead and import the things that we need. In this case, that's going to be select genre or category. What I'm doing here is I'm just using a triple mouse click. That way you select an entire line, and then you can hold Alt and then select different things. I'm also going to import use dispatch and use selector. I'm going to also import line 26 because we need that. And finally, import this line where we have the dispatch. And we can use another trick, Control P, to go to the file we were on. You can start typing movie information and get straight where we were. Now at the top, I'm simply going to paste everything by using Control V, and we can import things. Okay, we already have the use dispatch, so we didn't need that. But we are going to use our select genre or category, so we can put that here. We can move this use dispatch down, and finally we can copy the way we call our dispatch. That's going to be this entire callback function, and we can delete that line. So essentially, let me just repeat, since this wasn't really good, we're just copy and pasting. We are importing use dispatch. We are setting up our dispatch right here, use dispatch. We're also importing select genre or category from features/current genre or category. And now, if we scroll down, right here where we're looping over, we have our on click. We can pull that into a new line, and we're simply going to paste what we had. Dispatch, select genre or category. And right here, it looks like we're not closing it properly. Let's see, where is the issue? We're missing one closing parenthesis. We are not going to have the value in this case. In this case, it's going to be genre.id. That's the only thing we have to send. Let's save it and take a look and see if it works. I'm going to click comedy, and we did get to comedy. I'm going to click science fiction, and these definitely seem like science fiction movies to me. Adventure, that works as well. Let's go with Boss Baby, and then let's go to animation. These definitely seem like animated movies to me, which means that we're successfully implementing the genre searching. So now our movie information page looks like this. We have our title, our poster on the left side, we have our tagline with the rating, the duration, and then in here we can see all of the main primary categories. Great. This is just one part of the movie information page, but we're going to implement so much more information. I'm talking the entire movie overview, top cast, also the trailer, the buttons to add it to favorites, and so much more. But now might be a good time to take a short break, and then we're going to continue in the next lecture.